Hi, and welcome to another exciting edition of Game Development. My name is Nate Nestler, and this is for Hyperactive Studios. Now, before we looked at doing SDL, and we've looked at setting up our game engine with Crazy Eddie GUI, and so that way we actually have something going on for our graphical interface. And then we've also looked at CGFX shaders and how we can implement those. Now we need to start taking all these pieces and gluing them together and combining them. So let's look at what we can do to make that happen. Now, we could code an entire game engine from scratch, and this would take a lot of time. Or we could take tools that are already available to us that are free, and we can obtain these, and they're extremely fast and very good, and they come directly from NVIDIA. So just like we're also not going to develop a physics engine from scratch, we're going to use PhysX, which is right out of the box, and in that way we don't have to develop something from scratch. I can't think of a single game production where they do develop a whole physics engine from scratch. It would be a waste of time and effort and money. So it's the best physics engine in the industry. It's super fast and it's free, and they've done some absolutely amazing things. So we're going to be looking at Scenix 7. We can also use optics if we want, but as a special note here, optics only works with NVIDIA cards and does not work with ATI cards or anything else for that matter. So if you're trying to do real-time ray tracing and you want to go across all hardware, optics is not going to be the solution for you. But however, if you just need real-time ray tracing and you're fine with being able to launch just on an NVIDIA architecture, then of course that's fine and that'll work for you. Okay, so with that said, first off, we're going to work again with Ubuntu. Now, due to some kind of weird bug that's happened in Ubuntu 10.4 here, it kind of locked up my system. It did a partial update and didn't do the rest of the update, and then when I told it to fix it, it didn't fix, and it just didn't work, and everything went down from there. So I set up 11.4, and that made it work fine. So let me show you how to do that and how to go through this process. I'm also going to show you how to get Scenix 7, how to install it, how to work with it, blah, blah, blah. And again, Scenix 7 also runs on Windows and Linux, so it runs on both, and they give us source code, and they even give us a viewer to work with, and all this stuff, and some good example implementations of how to get into different graphical interfaces. So that's really nice, and let's have a look at how we go about this. So first off, we need to set up our Ubuntu with 11.4 here, and we need to get this going on, so that way we can get our development happening with inside of the Vmware Player. Of course, I'm doing it inside of Vmware Player so I can record this session. That will affect me for what I can do with graphics, though, as the Vmware Player is not capable of doing OpenGL 4.1. It can only do 2.1 for OpenGL, so it's kind of limited in that regard. But if I go to www.ubuntu.com, and then I go to the download page here, and then I click on Download and Install, and then I can select whatever architecture I want, 32-bit or 64-bit, and then I can click Start Download. Now you have to know if your computer is 64-bit. If you got your computer in the last year or two, it's 64-bit because there's no way it'd be otherwise. However, here's one of the gotchas. If you are doing it inside of VMware Player, beware of this. Whatever operating system you have, whether it's 32-bit or 64-bit, that's the one you need to use, because otherwise you'll have architecture mismatch. And if you have an architecture mismatch between the two, then basically it will not work. So saying that you have a 32-bit operating system here and you try to install a 64-bit Linux into your VMware Player, it will not work. Even though your computer is 64-bit, it will not work. And that's because it's getting information from the host machine, or operating systems for that instance. In this case, it's Windows XP, so it'll be getting information from XP. In this case, I have a 64-bit Windows XP, I believe, and so because of that, I can install into this no problem. In the case of, so I can install 64-bit into there, but I wouldn't want to install 32-bit, although I might be able to get away with it. Now, I absolutely cannot install 64-bit into a 32-bit OS, so meaning that if this was like, I don't know, Windows 7 32-bit, I couldn't install 64-bit Linux into it inside of VMware. It won't work. So I just wanted to point that out and make sure everybody was aware of that. Okay, cool. Now, we're also getting a download, so you're going to download that. Next thing you need to download is, first of all, we need to go to NVIDIA's website, www.nvidia.com. That's spelled NVIDIA. And then we're going to go over here to Communities, Developer Zone. Now, if you haven't hit up the Developer Zone before, this is absolutely awesome. It's got really amazing capabilities, and you can just see some of the things they have running on here with the Zone for the C++ and the OpenCL and the real-time physics and graphics, and they've done really amazing things with this, and you can just tap into that technology to make it freely available to developers, and in doing so, they basically get to sell their cards more, because if you push the limits of what your game can do, people are going to want to go out and get the new cards, so that way they can get the newest graphics and, you know, make the games look as good as possible. So from a developer side standpoint, this is amazing, and from their standpoint, it's great for them too, because they make money doing this. So that's why they're giving it out for free, I have to suspect. No one's told me this, but you know, obviously I think it makes sense. So anyhow, go to technologies here, engines. Here's optics if you want the ray tracing engine. We're going to hit up Scenix 7. And then you can come in here and you can download it. And yes, these are actual images from the real-time ray tracing system with optics in Scenix 7.1 with complex. So all three of these technologies combined. And here it is with the viewer. This is actually the viewer, and you get this only in Windows currently. And that's because they developed it with DLL files for Microsoft. However, you could have something like this running in Linux if you wanted. You just have to develop it out to do that. But there's no reason why you couldn't do this in Linux. And then also, you would need to sign in to access it. But this is the CGFX shaders. So it's already got a CGF shader pipeline and platform going on here. And so that's really great. And so we're going to get this whole setup here going on. And this will let us go between ray tracing and CGFX. We can look at our materials, we can look at our models, we can look at a lot of stuff, and it's pretty cool. And we'd have all the resources they use in order to make this viewer accessible to you. So you can see this is really quite nice for what it's capable of doing. Okay. Now, you will need to create a new account over here if you haven't already. Let me go into login. And then you can put in your username and password. And once you do that, I don't want everybody to see mine. Once you do that, then you can get in here and download it. So when it says, you know, now available, you can download it. It'll just let you download it to your hard drive. In this case, go ahead and download the Linux version that would match the architecture that you would have over here. So if you have a 64-bit one, then you download the 64-bit version of Linux. If you have a 32-bit one of Linux here, you need to download the 32-bit version of Linux here. I recommend having all the above and the Windows one too, so that way we can develop for all platforms, because again our focus is to develop for all platforms here and make it run on as many platforms as possible. We're also going to be introducing to CMake and some other technologies such as that for building scenes. So it lets you build irrespective of what OS you're developing on originally, and then be able to compile across all the different architectures and the different OSs. So that makes a big difference. Alright, so let me go ahead and pull up Vmware Player, and we need to create a new virtual machine. So I'm going to do that here. And I do have an ISO installer that I'm interested in. And it's this one right here, believe it or not, that I'm interested in. Okay. Now, if you want to do this so that it installs just like you would on a regular desktop system and not just like in the VMware Player with this special setup, then you're going to come in here and say, I will install the operating system later. Select that one instead. This also lets you get around, say you get in some of these other Linux distributions and they have like a fixed size for the hard drive space that you're going to use and everything. And you're like, I need more than that. And you can't do more than that with the newer version because it just auto goes through it. Well, if I set this to I will install operating system later, the virtual machine will be created with a blank hard disk, then you can set it up to whatever you want, and then it's not an issue anymore, and you can set up your partitioning however you like. And so that can really matter for certain circumstances like Red Hat, where you end up with only so many gigs for the actual root directory, and if that happens, then you can't install the applications you need. So this can be vital, this little step right here, setting this thing here to I will install the operating system later, can be vital for making it work. Alright, so next here. In this case, I'm not interested in Windows 7, I'm interested in Ubuntu. So I choose Linux, by default it's going to go to Ubuntu because that's the most popular choice. I'm going to say next. Ubuntu here. Okay, cool. I'm just going to throw it on one of my drives here. I'm going to throw it into eStorage, I think. Oh, I don't know, probably Linux. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, we'll call it, I don't know, I'm going to call mine Ubuntu 11.04. The Ubuntu Developer 11.4. All right, cool. Okay, so there we are. 11.4, there it is, and Ubuntu. I'm gonna say it up here too. Developer 11.4. I want to know what I'm dealing with here, because otherwise, I may not know. If I have multiple virtual machines, it's really good, important setup to have. All right, so here I'm just going to make sure I'm covered. I'm going to say 50 gigs just to be sure. Go into a single file. Now we don't have to really worry about this because this will expand out as we need it. So when we create this file, it's not going to be 50 gigs. It's going to be like a kilobit, and then it's going to grow and grow and grow as we install more and more stuff into it. So think of this as the upper ceiling of how big the file can become. And so 50 gigs is more than enough for what I need. All right, so next. Finish. I just don't want it to stop me from doing what I need to do. I can also go into hardware here at this point and have a look at what's going on here. So by default it's only giving me how much RAM on here. Now my system has, and this particular computer has 8 gigs versus my other one has 12, so I can safely get away with like 4 gigs of RAM, 496 gigs of RAM there, and so that increases it quite a bit. And it's certainly going to be a lot better than its current, than the 512. Also, I have 4 cores on this thing, so I'm perfectly fine with doing 2 cores assigned to this, which will make it run a lot faster. I'm going to leave the other 2 cores for recording and for Windows, so I figure they all need it. All right, physical hard drive, blah blah blah. NAT's probably what we want. For networking, sound card, printer, display detected, auto detect. Now we can say accelerate 3D graphics. That's another reason why I want to go in here. I want to go into my display and turn on accelerate 3D graphics. If I don't do that, I will not get that. And it's kind of important for what we're doing, so make sure you do that. All right, say OK to that. And let me say finish. Okay, cool. And set it up. And you're probably going, oh, well, okay. Well, where is everything? Well, it's no problem, because now I can come in here to my virtual machine settings with that selected, and where it says CD-ROM here, I'm going to change that out from auto detect over here to something totally different. I'm going to say browse, or maybe I don't say browse. Let's see here. Yeah, so I'm going to hunt down where I'm looking for what I need. In this case, it's going to be a desktop AMD 64 Ubuntu 11, wherever it is on your drive. In this case, it's on my F drive, and I didn't want to hunt for it, so I just told it to pull that down for where it was previously pulled up. I can also hit advanced if I need to and do any extra setups I need for that. IDE is working fine for this scenario here, but if it was something different, then I'd have to worry about something else. Now, if this was a SATA, it could be a SATA drive too, so you have to be aware of that. But in our case, it's an IDE apparently. I guess that one's an older one. Legacy emulation can be checked, etc. if you need that. But it should be fine. So I'm going to say OK. And now when I hit play on the virtual machine, it's automatically going to start wanting to install. And it's going to do the installation just as if I were to put the actual disk in the computer and start doing the installation. Okay. And it's thinking about it. And we're expanded out, as I knew it would. Okay. And it's going in for an installation. Now if I click in here, it's going to give me focus inside this window. I'm going to choose install, and I'm going to speak English, so Yep, I'm going to choose English. Try Ubuntu is not going to install it. It lets you test it out and see if you like it or not. Now, I'm not going to download my updates while installing. I'm going to do that after the fact. I do want to install third-party device software, though. That sounds good to me. All right. Alright, so I got a couple of choices here, and I'm going to choose erase entire disk and install Ubuntu because I have a blank disk. If you don't have a blank disk, you have other options you can choose from. And right now, if I want to, I could also set up my own partitioning and resize them and everything like that. So if I wanted to be able to do that, this is where I'd do that right here. In my case, I don't care. I'm just going to work with this disk, and then standard default Ubuntu is perfect for what I need, so I don't care. I'm just going to go on. But if I wanted to, I could maybe one day I'll make a very advanced series where I go through in detail how it actually works for the partitioning, getting down to calculating the cylinders and all that stuff for the partitions. But I'm not going to do that now. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and forward from there. And it tells me I got 53.7 gigabit on this virtual machine drive. So I'm going to say yes. Go ahead and install to that whole entire thing. Now realize this is not an actual real drive that's installing to, but rather a false drive. Now this is so cool because I am doing the rest of the configuration for the installation while it is copying and installing files. It's brilliant. So now you don't have to sit there and go through and do your configuration and wait for it to do your installing at the same time. You know, at a different time, I'm sorry. And then right now it's doing it at the same time. So as I go through here and go through my setup and for my installation, it is actually installing the actual files and setting up the system. So here I am just going setting up my keyboard now. It's a US keyboard. So I'm going to choose US because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be Nate because that's my name. And then whatever you want to put for your password. Yeah, didn't do my harder ones in there for this. Don't care. If you want to encrypt your home folder, you can. That means people cannot possibly read it no matter what unless you have your password. That also means you cannot recover your stuff if you forget your password. Forget it. You're not getting it back. There is no program, no nothing that can help you, period. You could try taking it to a data recovering service, but all your files will be encrypted. So they would recover them, but you wouldn't be able to see them or read them because they still be encrypted. So beware of that. But on the other hand, if you don't want people messing with your files and be able to get it to, you're doing really sensitive development work or something like that, then encrypting your home folder sounds like a good idea. But make sure you have it backed up. Please do that, because that matters a lot. You should always back up your files. You never know what's going to happen. Oh, and make sure when you back them up, you put them on a whole separate hard drive that is not even in the computer. It's off on a shelf somewhere. Because if you have the hard drive in your computer, what you could do is you could end up wearing out all your hard drives simultaneously. I did that once. I backed them up on all 3 hard drives and lost all my files because I burned up the gears in all 3 hard drives rendering in 3D graphics for a car I was making to put on Turbo Squid. So I was going to be using a film, but not when I lost it on all 3 drives. So be aware of that. You can lose your work if you put it on multiple drives because it can literally just burn up. Okay, so with that said, we're installing. And it's just going to go ahead and go through this whole process. And it's going to tell us about the software as it goes through. You can even skip through this if you want to see the next slide. If you want to see something different in here, that's fine. Meanwhile, it's continuing to copy the files and install them. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and move it forward because I don't think I really need to say much more about installing the Ubuntu because basically it's done. That was it. So it'll come ask to reboot here, and if you're installing this on a station, it will actually eject the disk at a certain point in time. You take out the disk and you restart the computer, and now you have Ubuntu. It's that simple. So pretty easy, and really not much to do as far as that goes. Okay, so with that said, we'll move on to the next part here. Inside of Linux, we'll appear in there. We'll have already downloaded the Scenix 7.1, and I'll go through the installation and setup process for that. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I've hit the restart button and we're just waiting for this to come back up. This is the Ubuntu 11.4 installation here. And then we'll get going with the Scenix 7 and that whole setup. Okay, so it just wants me to hit enter, and then now it'll restart. I'm not going to bother with the VMware tools at this point, although they can help if you do install them. But anyways, alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just log in. And here we go. Okay. Alrighty, so here we are, we're set up now. And we have some basic installation set up as far as that goes. Let's see if we have anything required for additional drivers. We may not need to do that since we're using Vmware Player. The answer says no. Okay, normally you would. If you have an NVIDIA card, that's where you would want to go to get this set up. You go to additional drivers and install that. Make sure that you have that in place. Okay, so we need to go to our Synaptic Package Manager. And again, that's just in System Administration, Synaptic Package Manager. And let's pop in here now. Okay, let's say close. And expand this out. We're going to search for what we're looking for. And in this case, we're going to need a few things. We need G++. So let's make sure we have that installed. There we are. Nice. We need that. Always helps to have that installed. And then, we also need some other things too with it. We also want code blocks. I think global optimization flags is good. We also want GCC. So let's just get the latest GCC. I'm just going to go ahead and do the multi-lib. I'm just going to grab all this stuff. This is all stuff I probably really need to have in there. So just to make sure all my bases are covered, I'm just going to go through and getting them all. I don't care. I just want them. I just want everything I need to have, And if I install a few extra things that I didn't need, oh well. I'd rather have a few extra things and have what I need than have to hunt and peck for every little thing I need. It just saves you a lot of headaches. I'm also going to do code blocks. Okay. So let's go ahead and grab those. Bing. So go ahead and mark for installation. Say mark. I'm just going down through the list here, just getting each one that I need. Let's get to development in case we need that. Awesome. Alright, let's do another search, and that's going to be for Qt, basically Qt4 in particular. But, yep, let's look for our Qt. Okay, that's too much to hunt through. Qt4. Alright. Just trying to find the Qt files here. Buried in here, it looks like. Usually just, I don't know, comes up easier in this, but whatever. Okay, so it probably gives us a lot of the stuff we need right there. Great. Yep, that helped, that was for sure. Qt is a great graphical library. We're going to be focused more on CE GUI, but just to show you getting this started and getting this going, we're just going to go ahead and get this in place. But this would be my next choice, probably use Qt if I didn't use CE GUI. It does have 3D capabilities in it, so it's pretty awesome in that regard. And I think it's got a lot of amazing features in it. Matter of fact, it can even let you do cell phone GUI development, and also HTML5 of all things for the web too. So, and it's got elastic nodes to where you can do dynamic elastic nodes, where you can like grab one node and move it around, and they automatically slide and fly into place and all this stuff. And it's pretty daggone cool. It's pretty nice. We're also going to need FreeGlut. So I'm going to get, while these are installing here though, I'm going to go ahead and deal with something else too that we're going to need. Okay. Now I think that's going to get us most of the stuff we need right there as far as that goes. Let's do one more search, and that is that we need FreeGlut. And we need FreeGlut because that's what's required for one of the libraries. Yeah. And if you want, you can also get it to automatically install Devil, which we also need. If you want to set up, if you want to have Crazy Edit GUI for the other one, so that way you don't have to do as much setup for Crazy Edit GUI later on here. You can just pop in here and slip in here and get version 6, which isn't as good as 7.5. And yes, we are going to probably go back and you'd have to go back and rebuild 7.5 from what you did previously. But you'll notice as we go through here, we get Devil in there, which is great. So that takes care of our problems for us needing Devil as far as that goes. If you also want, you can get set up here with Ogre, with CE GUI if you want Ogre libraries. So that's pretty cool too. But it's whatever you need, and that's what you should do for whatever you need. And that gives me everything I want as far as that goes. Okay, and I don't know, this developer reference is sounding kind of cool, so I don't know, I'll install that too. But anyways, that's everything I want right now. So I'm going to say apply, and it's going to tell me what's going to be unchanged. It's going to tell me what's going to be installed and what's going to be upgraded. So as far as that goes, I'm fine with all that. I'm just going to say apply, and then it's going to tell me it's going to be installing all kinds of fun stuff. I forgot to install CMake. Okay. Yep. So it's going to take a hot minute, and I don't know how many of them it has to install. But anyway, it's going to come over here for now, and we're going to go ahead and pop up home directory here. And of course there's nothing in here, but we're going to put something in here in just a second. And let me get set up to do that. Alright, so I went ahead and set up CMake here. So you can see I got CMake GUI here for Qt, and CMake debugger, and the docs, and CMake, and CMake in curses. CMake curses got GUI, -GUI here, and CMake data, and common here. So I just kind of went through and just checked CMake, and it grabbed a bunch of other ones, and I wanted to get the GUI in there too, and the debugger, and the docs, and all this fun stuff. But it's going to take a hot minute for it to download because my connection just dropped down to nothing. It was at several hundred kilobits per second, but it just went toast. I have a 15 meg per second connection, but unfortunately, I think the wiring in the wall is not going too great for me. So the connection tends to drop pretty bad at times, and this apparently is one of those times. But we won't wait for that. Instead, I've already downloaded the other file here, Scenix. For Linux here, it's the 64-bit version of the latest one at this time of this recording. I'm just going to right click on this, and I'm going to say extract here. And I'm downloading it into my user folder here. And if you're downloading it through Firefox, it'll show up in downloads. But alright, so it pops out, cool. And basically I just need to run this as root in order to make it install. So how do we do that? Okay, so I'm going to pop over here, and I have gone over here to accessories and I've dragged and dropped terminal up here so that I can work with it. I also want text editor, so same way I did terminal, I'm doing the text editor too, just because it makes life easier. Oh my gosh, does it ever. And the other application's finished installing for programming here. So check it out, here's code block, so I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop that up here. And once CMake finishes, I'm going to drag and drop its GUI up here also, because, well, quite frankly, it makes it easier for doing this stuff. Alright, so I need to come in here and I'm going to do an ls to list where I'm at, and there we are. And I need to become sudo -s in order to become root. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Alright, there we are, I'm root, and let me do a / here, and let's go ahead and run this shell script. So what this is going to do is going to do the installation. I'm going to go ahead and expand my window full blown, and it's going to go through a whole bunch of dots, and this is basically a processing bar, text-based processing bar, the console screen. And then after that, it's going to come down here and it's going to ask us if we're going to do yes. Now, if you can't get down to the yes because it doesn't fit on your screen, that's fine. You have to hit enter key over and over again until you get to it. Don't hit enter key too religiously, too quickly, because if you do, yeah, I'm going to have to do it. Because if you do, what's going to happen is you get towards the end here and you're hitting the enter key, you'll go right past where it asks you to say yes, and you have to do it all over again. See right there, I didn't go too far because I was pacing myself. So make sure you pace yourself on this if it doesn't fit up on there on the screen. Now I just want this to go to /user/local/Scenix. So I don't need to type anything. If I just hit enter, it'll automatically put it there. So there it is. So there we are. That's where it's at. And let's prove that now. So I'm going to cd into /user/local/Scenix. ls like that. And I'm going to cd into, well, let me go into, well, this is it right here, actually. Let's go back a directory real quick. ls here, and let me ch own this. So I'm going to change the ownership of this. In this case, I'm going to change it to Nate to be the owner of it, because I don't want to deal with being root all the time for everything, which is really great when we start using graphical CMake, because when I click on the icon up here, or code blocks, it's going to be running under user Nate and not under root. So it's a really good idea to change this. Also, I'm going to put a -R here, and that's going to make it recursively update for all the files. So that's also going to make life easier too. Alright, I just don't want to deal with any headaches. So I'm just going to come in here, I'm going to say Scenix like so, and it's going to update it for Scenix. I'm lazy, so I'm not going to retype that. Let me just go ahead and blow this up so everybody can see it easy. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit up arrow, so I don't have to type that again, and I'm going to change that from chown to grp to change the group to. Alright, cool. If I do an ls-l, check it out. I now have Scenix here with Nate from both of them, and instead of being root. So we can see how that has now changed right there. But the permissions aren't the way we want it for some of our files inside the folder, so I don't want to feel like dealing with it really. So I'm just going to go ahead and make it 777 for all the permissions, or shall I say rewrite execute for user group and everyone else. So let's just do that right now. So I'm going to do a chmod here, and I'm going to say -R. Why -R? Because we're going to do it recursive, so we hit all the files and all the folders. And then I'm going to say 777, and then Scenix. Okay? Cool. Now I'm going to do a ls-l here. Check it out. We now have read, write, execute, read, write, execute, read, write, execute for user, group, and everyone. So that's awesome. So now our permissions are set the way we want. We need to edit something though. We need to edit our main library files, because we just installed by hand our programming files here inside Linux. So we need to update the main file to let it know where it is on the system. So gedit. I'm already root level, so open file etc. There's our little scroll bar. You have to hunt for it now in 11. Alright, so inside etc ld.so.conf here, go into the editor, edit this. I just want it to work. Gosh. Alright. Scenix like that. Save. Close it out. Alrighty. Alright, so now it's edited. ld config like so, and it'll update it. Alright, so let's go ahead and cd into Scenix. ls, there we are, cool. Now all we have to do is go into our samples and update that. And I'll show you what's going on with some of this stuff. I don't know, we could do Qt free glut would work. We can also do Qt minimal. We're good for either one. Let's do both, just because I feel like it. I haven't installed the WX widgets, and I just don't feel like doing that one. They have a lot more Qt stuff, so I definitely wanted to do Qt. But there are other stuff I don't care so much on. I don't care if I make it work for every little thing there is. Alright, ls here. And then I need to edit that cmakes list file right there. Now, it's cool because I've come over here, I can just edit with my regular text editor. And the reason why I can do that is because I've changed the permissions of the files to make it allowable. Okay, so I'm just going to come in here to File, System here. So User. Let's go into Local, Scenix, Samples, Glut Minimal, and we have the same problem here on all of them. So I'm going to go into this one here, expand this up real quick. If I go into Edit and then go down to Preferences, then I can turn on line numbers. It's really useful, especially for debugging. Let's turn on these other ones too. And I also want to add auto indentation. Close. Alright, cool. Now we're set up. Line 16 is the issue right here. So if I put a pound sign in front of it, it's going to comment it out, make it not visible to the rest of the system here. And the thing I'm going to need here is going to be this Scenix home right here variable, and I'm going to basically define that directly inside of my CMake, a GUI editor for handling that. Alright, so with that set up, all I gotta do is compile this part here. Well, not compile it, but do the CMake so I can do the configuration on it. Which I can't really do right now because it's still installing. Well, shall I say downloading actually. None of it's actually even there right now. So but once the CMake debugger is downloaded and installed, we'll be able to go forward in this video. But at this point, I've actually just run the gamut there for that one. But I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and save this one, and the other one I want to edit too real quick, because while I'm at it, we might as well just go ahead and edit the Qt minimal one too in here for its CMake. So I'm just going to go here to line 16, right, and comment it out. There we go. Hit save, and there it is. And this one is for Qt minimal, and this one is for the glut minimal here. Now I can keep doing these for the other ones. You notice you have to keep doing this over and over again. I'm going to go ahead and go over some locations where things are stored, so that way when you get to the CMake, then you'll know where things are already at, and you won't have to deal with it. Alright, so let's look at Qt manipulators. Let's go ahead and edit its Qt list. Line 16, let's comment it out. You need to do this for every single CMake that you want to build, for every little project thing you want to build in here. You just go into these lines here for line 16 and comment it out. So like this, bing, so on and so forth. Again, for ambient occlusion now. Ambient occlusion is awesome, by the way. Love ambient occlusion. There we go. Let's say open here. Let's go back here. Yeah, if you want to do FOB, FOB's cool. Again, we're not going to worry about viewer because that's for Microsoft only. So they read it with Microsoft DLL files, so MFC. So there's not really anything we can do about that. Alright. Let's see here. Well, we got Cloud Inserter, sure. Let's go ahead and edit that one too. This one's different, I'm not going to touch it. It's different, so I don't want to fight with that because I may break something. I need to actually play with compiling that one before I touch it. Cloud Inserter is probably the same scenario where, yeah, I don't want to touch it. Figured as much. Okay. And then common. Alright, so let's talk about a few of these things right here. This is where you're going to find your libraries and things like this for XW widgets from NVIDIA, and this is where you're going to find it for Qt. Now, where do you find the actual CMake files for Scenix so it knows where to find things and make them? Well, that's in a different location. We're going to go here to Scenix here, and then go into CMake. And then you're going to find Scenix.CMake is going to be a big one right here. And this is going to be your Scenix root. And then also for your find glut here, this is where you're going to do that one for its glut root, for the NVIDIA glut root. And then also find MVQT for the NVIDIA QT CMake. This is how you're going to find that one also. So, that's how you're going to get to these. And this would be for the boost library, so on and so forth. And so, having these marked is really important for the CMake portion of it here. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can do CMake. You can do it graphically. You can do it through command line. Matter of fact, I'm starting to realize, though, I can't go over to command line because it's not installed yet, and it has to be installed for me to show you through command line. I prefer graphical, though, because it is faster and easier, and it's just more straightforward and easier to edit and create things with. So, with it. Anyways, so that makes a lot more sense. Let's see here. Okay. Well, that's all set up, and really we can't proceed any further until until the CMake is installed. So I'm just going to double check these, but I'm pretty sure I hit save on every one of them. I just don't want to make a mistake. So there we go. Alright, and then once it's installed, like a good cooking show, will come up and it'll be working for the install. Anyways, the install will be done. Let's put it that way. And then we'll be able to proceed from here. Alright, so with that, see you back here in just a second. And we'll proceed back at this point here. Okay? Alright. Okay, so it finished installing for CMake. So let me just go ahead and add that. It's going to go be under programming. See the CMake triangle here with the multicolor thing? Yeah. Move that in position. Okay, cool. And I'm just going to kind of flip back and forth. So I'm going to go ahead and do my... let's do my CMake over here on this desktop. Okay. I'm just going to browse to the source. Drop down to User, Local, Scenix, and then I'm going to drop into Samples. And let's just go ahead and hit up the glut minimal. This is where we're headed. And I'm too lazy to type that out again, so I'm just going to hit Control C, or hunt it down anyways, and paste it in. Now, if I click Configure, it's going to go ahead and build it. Now, I want to do this on code blocks just because I'm going to be working with code blocks. So, I'll go ahead and set that up. Alright, so let's expand this out. Now, I need to add something, and that's that Scenix home. Remember, because we commented out this line, we need to add this back into our CMake. So if I do add entry here, paste it in, choose path, say value, go to file system, then go to user, then go to local, and then go to Scenix and say open. There we go. And there's that one. Build type, now we could have several different ones. We could have rel with deb info, and so that's release with debug info, and that's the default. Other couple ones you can do here are release and debug. Let's go ahead and do a release real quick. I'm going to go ahead and make it lowercase. The reason why I'm going to do that is because if you go in here under bin Linux debug release, it's lowercase like that. So if I make it lowercase like that, it'll match up with what they have from NVIDIA for their folder structure, and it'll just fall right in there. So that works. Leave the CMake prefix where that is. No need to change that. NVIDIA glut and Scenix found. So this goes to where our CMakes are. Now you can find a cool little entry about this directory containing a CMake configuration file for NV glut. So this is a tooltip popping up when you bring your cursor and just let it sit there for a while over the attribute that you need more information about. So let's go ahead and do that if you get confused. But basically, where we're going to find this at, well, same place for both of them actually. So once I grab one, I'm just going to paste it in the other. So user, local, Scenix, CMake, that one right there. And I'll preview it to you real quick, sorry. This would be find Scenix.cmake. They're grayed out. That's the file it's looking for. So if I copy this one, I go ahead and paste it in over there when we get for the one for NVIDIA Glut. Because if I go in here in NVIDIA Glut, check it out. There's the find mvglut.cmake. Now I already went over this earlier, and this is what I was talking about. All right. Glut root path is going to be /user/bin. I think. No, wait. User lib. Oops. User lib standard library. That's where it's at. Okay. And yes, I already put in /user/local/Scenix for that one. Okay, cool. So if I say configure, it should configure all the way. Cool, it did. Let's click configure again after it brought up some other options here. We can leave this one blank. It'll be fine. Now I need to say generate. And it's going to generate my configuration file. Of course, I don't have to do anything with that configuration file. As soon as I hit make, it's going to find everything and it's going to compile. So I'll prove that to you. So if I'm inside of my glut minimals, under samples, under Scenix, under local, under user, I can just now type make, and magically it will build. And this will work because I did change the permissions earlier to be the owner with Nate here for the user and group. Of course, you're going to use your user or group when you're creating those permissions earlier. But there we go. And it may say error there at the end, but it's not going to be an error. I know that sounds crazy, but it's not the case. So if I do, I'm going to go back 2 folders and then go forward several folders from there. And so I need to go into bin. I need to say AMD64, I believe it is, /Linux, and then / release, right? Yep, I'm right. So I do an ls. Here's all of my executables. And glut minimal, for instance. I'll just go ahead and select that middle click to bring up execution on it, and well, this ran on my computer without running inside the virtual machine, so we may have a problem. In fact, I'm trying to run this in a virtual machine. Yes, because it's trying to do GLX and swap buffers, and it can't do it on the virtual machine, but that is literally how you make that work, and it would normally work. Yikes. So if you're not doing inside a virtual machine for this, it'll work. Go back 4 directories. Let's go ahead and build it for Qt also, so we have to see how that goes. Alright, so let's go ahead and do Qt minimal. Alright, so let's go ahead and make that. Same setup. We just need to change our location back over here to Qt minimal instead. Say open. I'm too lazy to type that out again. Alright, configure again, code blocks, yes, finish, and same scenario as before. Alright, so it brings up all this stuff, and again, build type is going to be release, code blocks, blah blah blah. Now again, where's it going to be? It's going to go into user, local, Scenix, CMake, right? Check it out. Here is the NVIDIA Qt version here for the CMake. Alright, same thing for this one. Where does it need to be? It's this exact same directory. Alright, so no point in going to hunt that down when we have it right there. Okay, cool. That's correct. Now there's one other thing we need to add for an entry, and too lazy to go type this up. So I'm just going to go ahead and come over here and select it. Also means I can't possibly make a mistake as a typo. So path, and again, this is just user, local, and Scenix. Alright, say OK to that, and let's say configure. Hit configure again to build that up. There we are. Hit generate, and it should make. It's not going to make though, because we're on this virtual machine, so it looks like nothing's going to make on the virtual machine. Even though I have it set to 3D, it's just not going to work. It's looking for very specific libraries that don't exist on this thing, so there's no way of making this one happen, I'm afraid. No matter what we do, it's not going to work. But it did work on my system, and it did play, and it looked awesome, and it worked fine for me. So be aware this is how you go about this process. And you would do this for each and every project sample folder. I mean, while that builds, I could literally come over here to the next one and hit it up. So say we want to do a different one here. I don't know. How about Ambient Occlusion, for instance? I'm not really aiming high now. Like so. Boom. Again, like that. Configure. Code blocks, like so. It'll go through its lookup process, and then what we type in here, release. And then what else are we going to do, right? This one right here. System, user, local, Scenix, CMake, open. Select that one. Paste in here. Got them both knocked out. Lazy, so I'm not going to type it. Control C, come back here, add the entry. Boom, boom. / user / local / Scenix. Assuming I type it correctly. configure, generate. There you go, it's done for that one. Let's see if our build is done. And our build is done. Cool. Be back / like that, ls. And you do the same thing for this one for Qt Ambient Occlusion. I'm just going to go ahead and select this, paste it in there, and all I have to do is type in make, and it'll compile it. So very cool. That's really all I have to do to make that happen. I mean, I could come in here and just prove a point. I could cd in here to user local. You can't see that. Cd into / user local / Scenix / well, bin / AMD64 / Linux / release ls // and the only thing we need here is Qt minimal. Now I really shouldn't try running this while this is compiling. Oh, it just finished. Awesome. Well, I guess I can now. Oh, it worked for Qt minimal. Alright, so that's what you should get for Glut. Same kind of thing. Only the thing about Qt one is you can actually move it around. In Glut you cannot. So this is the same result you would get for the Glut. And it works fine. So Qt it is. Now you could actually throw this into your CE GUI with your SDL window and make this happen if you were to code this in. And we'll look at the code that was behind this, what made this work, and then we can explore that. Okay? Very cool. Nice. And then I want to see if that ambient occlusion one's there, because if it is, hey, I want to do that one. Oh, it is there. Cool. I don't know if this is going to run on this virtual machine. Oh yeah, it totally didn't. That is not a surprise. Yeah, no NVIDIA GPU. I agree with it. That's not happening anytime soon. Yeah, so totally seg-faulted because the hardware wasn't there because we're running on a virtual machine. What can you do? You know. I'm gonna feel like playing with a few of these others too, real quick while I'm at it. So let's go ahead and play with Qt Manipulator, and let's just find out what all we can do inside the virtual machine versus what we can't manipulate towards. If I could type, and of course I didn't type it correctly. Manipulators. Oh boy, I'm just off. Not even close. All right. So with that, now we already edited this file earlier, so we're ready to compile the moment we set the CMake. And it turns out I'm terribly lazy, so who would have thought? So I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to not do anything apparently. Alright, never mind. So much for that idea. So I'm going to go over here into Manipulators. say open, copy, paste, click to replace, say finish to run that, come back over here, select the Scenix, same process, Control C, come back over here, and we're going to say add entry, paste that in, come back over here to path, type in /user/local/Scenix, like that, say OK, come in here, type in release, cover here, and we're going to say what? We're going to say this one right here is just going to be like user/local/Scenix. I'm not going to bother to hunt it down because I already know it. CMake right there. Too lazy. Select it. Copy. Paste. Done. That's everything right there. Knocked it out. Configure, generate. Yep, and it's done. So I'm going to come back over here and make. Well, I thought while that's making, let's just go ahead and knock out the next one too. Browse, come back to samples. Only one's left is tracer. Here, we literally knocked out all the others. So open, as far as the Qt ones go anyways. It's the only ones I'm pretty sure will work because, well, I've already got the Qt stuff in place. That's why. Alright, say OK to that. And again, come in here and type in release. And again, come in here and type in /user/local/Scenix/CMake, like that. Select it. Control C, Control V, paste it. Again, come back over here. Select in Scenix Home, like so. Control C to copy it. Come back over here. Click on the add entry. Paste it in. Come over here to the path again. /user/local/Scenix. Bam, like that. Say OK, configure, generate, and there it is for that one. And that one's still compiling. Well, since we got that one set up too, why not? Let's just knock out the next one too. I guess I'm gonna roll. Why not? FBO, sure. Let's hit up FBO also on here. Let's see if it just builds for us, or if it's going to give us headaches. If it's going to give us headaches, I'm not going to bother with it, but if it wants to work right out of the box, that's cool by me. I don't care. Okay, release. And then in the case of the Scenix directory, again, it's going to be /user/local/Scenix/CMake. Like that. Configure. Doesn't like line 22, and this is again why I set up the line numbering for the text editor so we can find it. Alright, so Scenix set binary folders, not sure really what's going on there. It doesn't like something from the script. It's line 22 here. Okay, so it doesn't recognize that command. Maybe they're using a newer version of CMake than what I'm using. It's very possible, and that's what the problem is. I don't know. They did say a particular version, so that might have something to do with it. Why I'm having these problems. But I guess we could try commenting it out and see what happens, right? Oh, I guess we would need to save that too while I'm at it. Yeah, otherwise it doesn't count. Configure. Okay, it doesn't like me. And I don't blame it. I did something it didn't like. So, oh yeah, I need to come in here. Never mind. It just needed that filled in for it. Okay, I filled it in and it still doesn't like me. Awesome. I'd have to go through this configuration file and find out what the issues are. And I don't have time to do that in the video. So, but anyways, there's that one. So that one's built. Let's go back real quick here. And let's CD into our icon tracer. Right, because we just did the manipulator. And let's just do a make. So check it out, we now have that make file and all that. And that was generated by our CMake there. So it just does all the work for us. It's really nice. You just code up a basic file for building process, and it'll build on all the architecture platforms and all the operating systems. So that's really awesome, and it really saves you a lot of time and headaches and problems. And I don't know, it's nothing but good things to say about that. This is building, so it's probably not the most. It's probably not a good idea to do this while it's building, but let's do it anyways. Okay, cool. So there we go. Right-click over an object to manipulate them. So manipulate blue object. Use trackball camera manipulator. Use cylindrical camera manipulator, flight camera manipulator, or walk camera manipulator. So I'm doing walking with WASD, like you would in a game. Right-click on this. Let's try cylindrical mapping manipulator. Alright, try trackball manipulator. Rolling my trackball to zoom in and out. Of course, middle click is pan. If I right click on it again, though, I can also choose flight camera, which means when I click, I'm flying or zooming, if you will. And then I can also say manipulate blue object, which will let me manipulate the object across its object coordinate space. Very cool. On local coordinates, if you will, for its rotations here. And that's awesome. Let's come back over here to good old trackball method, which I don't mind at all. Actually, one of my favorite ways to handle this. There we go for our manipulator. So very cool. And let's see if our other part here is done now. Icon tracer is there. Very cool. Let's see if we can't do something with this. And probably not looking that way. Okay, intensity, blah, 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 blah. Okay, error could not initialize ray tracing. Of course not. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, we're not going to be able to do ray tracing because we don't have an NVIDIA card in the virtual machine. I do have an NVIDIA card on the machine for doing this, but we're not running on Linux for the host operating system. So because of that, there's no way on earth I'm going to run some of these demos. So you can do real-time ray tracing, and it's amazing, it's awesome, but it's going to be hard for me to show it in this video, considering this video recording software only runs on Windows. So, you know, don't know what to say. I guess I just said it, really. Alright, so with that, that goes over how to set up and run and work and create the setups here for Scenix, how to get it running, how to get it compiled, how to make it work. And then, you know, all you have to do is go over the code. They got some good tutorials inside the help files. Yeah, and speaking of that, where are the help files on this thing? Well, it's actually in a handy dandy location. And that would be, if I go in here, and I go back over into Scenix, and I go into docs. Now, on Windows, you have this Scenix help.chm, so you just double click this and pull it up. But in Linux, you need to go into your HTML, and this RTFX is your real-time ray tracing optics information for how to do basically techniques for your optics. Is a lot like CGFX shader programming techniques as far as that goes, so it has a lot of resemblance to that. It's a pretty cool read. Feel free to go through it, it's nice. We just need to access basically the index.html. So quite honestly, if I were to just launch Firefox, I could get to it that way. Probably be faster too, honestly. But I didn't, so I digress. I already gone past it because, you know, it would be IND anyways. So real light touch, pretty much. All right, there it is. Open, run. Hopefully it launches Firefox like I hope it to do. If it doesn't, I'm going to launch Firefox myself. I'm getting impatient, so I'm launching Firefox. terrible. Alright. /user/local/Scenix/docs/html/index.html. Assuming I remembered all that correctly. I did. Cool, I did it off the top of my head. Alright, so there we are. And so you got lots of awesome documentation, but it's real easy to get lost real quick in this. So basically where you want to hit up and go to your next part here to get going and moving with it is to hit the getting started one. Now the getting started here tells you about prerequisites and all this stuff. Really doesn't tell you how to build the project like I just showed you. So I found absolutely no documentation on this whatsoever for building what I just did. But Simple Scene and Simple Generator, Mesh Generator are both very good tutorials here for breaking down and going over this setup here and how it works. I also would recommend some of the documentation from OpenSceneGraph, OSG, as it will shed a lot more light on this material because it's kind of sparse in its and how it handles and goes over this material in that regard. It just kind of throws you right in there and doesn't really give you a precursor to some of the underlying technologies and things like the share pointers, for instance, for the memory handling and things of that nature. That's really well covered inside of Scenix. So be aware of that. I'm not sorry, not inside Scenix, but inside of OSG. So what happens when I start thinking multiple things at once. But basically, here you go. So this does give you a nice breakdown and will let you understand the stuff a lot better. Alright, so with that, we'll hit up what comes next, but that should give you a good understanding. Alright, well, my name is Nate Nessler, this is for Hyperactive Studios, and this has been how to set up and get Scenix going in Linux. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.